To discuss this further, I am joined now by Ammar Kahf. He is the Executive Director at the Omran Centre for Strategic Studies, and he joins me now live from here in Istanbul. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on the program. Now, in recent years, donors have failed to give enough money that would meet the needs of the people of Syria that are lacking basic needs like clean water, hygiene products, warm clothes during cold winters, and even shortages in food and medicines. Are you hopeful at all that this time round they'll be able to raise enough money to bring some sort of relief to Syrians?
Thank you very much for putting attention on this important topic. So far the pledges have been better than expected. Syrians did not expect much out of this Brussels because of many signals that were given in advance. Many countries have said that because of donor fatigue, we have the UK cutting funding on education. We have many countries shifting some of their funding to Ukraine. And so there are, serious problems on the humanitarian funding sector in Syria, that the focus has always been on a Band-Aid approach rather than a systematic empowerment approach. People need to create more jobs. Syrians need to empower themselves so that they could overcome the current humanitarian crisis. So far, the funding has been minimal. Today, the funding pledges have been positive, I would say, but more is needed than is being delivered.
And what do you make of the fact that they've raised money to fund more than 60% of humanitarian needs in Ukraine compared to only 6% for Syria? Do you think that there's a double standard in the way that refugees are being treated?
Of course. I see a double standard in that. I see a lack of a vision, of a strategy. When you cut education, you know that the need will be much more in 5 years than today. Because when you cut education, there's poverty, there's crime, there's drugs, there are many problems, extremism, that will come out as a result of that. And unfortunately, also the funding of neighboring countries has not been sufficient. So when you talk about empowering refugees, that naturally pushes people out of Syria rather than into Syria.
Right. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, as we've mentioned, that has caused an economic fallout in countries across the globe, as well as the war in Ukraine now being at the top of the agenda for most nations. How important do you think this conflict is for the EU, taking this donors conference into consideration?
Number one, the UN was not involved this year on the sixth Brussels conference in the organization because of Russia being uninvited to this round. And so there's also an international conflict between the EU and Russia. Mm-hmm. What this Brussels, the positive thing of this Brussels conference this year is that it re-emphasized the European position vis-a-vis the normalization of relations with the regime and reaffirmed its commitment to the Syrian people, even though the funding is much less than mm-hmm. what's needed. But still, it continued the line of non-normalization of the regime. So, I can look at it as a positive approach. The role of civil society in this round was minimal. This is the first time we have a physical meeting since COVID. But nevertheless, I see both the negatives and the positives of this conference.
All right. The Executive Director at the Omran Centre for Strategic Studies, Ammar Kahf, thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World.